You're watching this because you're probably interested in buying a Wickiup 3 tent. There's not that many videos out there. There's a Renegade Scot who probably does the best one, who tells you more about the tent, but there's a few things he doesn't tell you about. And those things I'm going to cover today. So if you're looking at buying yourself a Wickiup 3 tent, stick with it. There's a few things that you might not know, and will come in handy for you, along with a few mods. Welcome to MAFT UK. Here we go then, the Nigor Wickiup 3. Everything in there, including extra ground sheet, extra pegs, and all my modifications, bring this to a grand total of 2 kilos, which isn't bad, I think, for a tent this big. So it states here that the height of it is 155. No, not for this particular inner, it isn't. No, it's higher. Okay, let's put it together. Now, orange tab there, that's your marker, that's your start point every single time. You get that in the ground. Notice I'm not pegging in too deep, and I'm not pegging it out too tight. One, two, three. That way to the top, or that way to the top, you decide. Okay, once you've done that initial bit, you can now tighten everything up. But that's why I kept it nice and loose. Now, what I found was that I didn't want to peg it fully out until I finished putting this on. So I got my screen and my little mini ground sheet. Put my ground sheet in after. Now I put a little carabiner inside the top to hook my top of my tent onto. So we have a little clip here, and that now just hooks onto the small carabiner inside the tent. There's a carabiner and there's your clip up there. And that now is the inner nearly set up. If you look inside, you will see it's nice and taut. Alright, it's a bit misshapely there, but that's nothing. It's still nice and taut. The sides aren't sagging at all. Everything's fine. Looks well. So you would have noticed me passing that through. Now you can just simply hook it onto your peg. This is why I don't peg everything in too much. And each one now, instead of depending on that clip, just hooks on. Oh, set that one. There we go. There you are. Now I can drive those home. There we are. Lovely. Now we've got intermediate ones to go in. And there we are. One Wickiup 3. Now 1, 2 and 3 upper guidelines, and we only have one peg left, which is why I put the additional in. I think I only need an extra 3. That just fits in there, just. You wouldn't want to be the person having to sleep up against there, I can tell you. But that's it, it's complete. But that is the tent. Well, there we are, that's it. Now admittedly I've got this lovely ground sheet. I told you, that's, just ignore that. I can use a small piece of this if I wanted to cut one up and cut it to the exact size, so as I've got something in my porch area, which isn't such a bad idea if it's on snow or if you're, you know, really boggy ground. But at the end of the day, the room in here for your kit, storage and kitchen, cooking, it's just vast, and that's coming from me. As for a 3-man tent, not on your Nelly. 2-man tent, you know, with the inner out, yeah, no bother. If you had the full inner, yeah, 2-man, no problem. That would probably be you carrying a kilo each, but hey, that's neither here or there when you're carrying a bloody tripod as well. And if I go and got my rifle with me, makes no difference. But hey, if I'm going over hills and dells, then yeah, it will make a massive difference. There was a couple of things there that I wished were told on some other videos, which was very difficult to find, and that was how many times to, you know, to extend the pole and how to peg it out. Now, I've watched video after video of people pegging them out and pulling them really taut, and when they try to erect the tent, it doesn't work. It doesn't go up. It's too tight. So it took me all morning to figure out that don't peg it out tight, keep it loose. And then I did that, put the inner in, and the inner was sagging here and sagging there, and I thought, oh, this is a pain in the ass. So what I did in the end was I decided to peg it much looser, set the poles to different heights, and tried it each one. And when I got to the third setting, the third pole, that's when it all clicked into place. And that's a tidy little setup now. The tarp doesn't touch the fly at all anywhere. It's a good 3-inch off in places and maybe 4 in others, and it's perfectly fine. And this material as well is like the Hillyberg type material. It's really fine. It's double silicon, so it's silicon on the inside and the outside, so I have no issues about that preventing the rain. From a ventilation point of view, this method means that it's about 3 inches up off the floor all the way round, so you've got plenty of ventilation in. If you wanted to, if it was winter and you wanted to batten down the hatches, you don't need the inner anyway, so you would just knock it down a couple of notches, so perhaps one pin out, and then you can anchor that to the ground and you are out of the elements completely. There is a separate bathtub to buy, but that's another £100 and something, and it's going to be a while before I do that, because this isn't a cheap tent. It really isn't. And with my air bed in this tent, you know, I spent a lot of money this year, and I shouldn't really have done it, but you know, I want to go. I want to get some of this weight off, and I want to do it the way I like doing it, and that's get out there on them hills and do it, not sat on the banks of a river drinking copious amounts of lager hour after hour. Although I do enjoy that, it's, you know, it's not helping me really. It's too much fishing, too much rich living is taking its toll on me, so I need to get up on those hills. It's taken me months to find this tent. The tent's always been there, but the one suitable for me. I was looking at it, and there was nearly a winner. A Vango the Vango Xeon, which was a tunnel tent. That had me all the way, to be fair. It really did. And then I went to purchase it, and I couldn't get a ground sheet for it, so I couldn't get the footprint, which offers more protection. This is a hydrostatic head of 10,000 on the floor. It needs to be minimum that for any winter tent. So and that was only, and the Xeon was only 3,000, could be 5,000 hydrostatic head on the ground sheet. It's not enough, so you need the footprint to afford a little bit more protection, to stop you kneeling in it and it actually seeping through. And I couldn't find a ground sheet anywhere, and I wasn't prepared to wait. I wasn't prepared to see none. I just can't find any. None in stock, don't know when they're coming back. None in stock, don't know when we're going to be back in stock again. So I didn't want to have a tent which didn't have its proper footprint with it, and I didn't want to do a snidey one or make some bit of plastic or something, because it just defeats the whole point. So I changed my mind, and I kept looking at all this stuff and all these different tents, and it took me weeks and weeks. missus thought I was going insane. She said I was obsessed with tents. Well, yeah, it does become obsessive. I looked at the Access, MSR Access, the MSR Hubba Hubbas. I looked at all those. The MSR Access is a perfect winter tent. The trouble is, not for the UK. It's no good for the UK. There's a lass called, her channel's called Yes Jane Can, and she has 2 reviews, one of the MSR 3-season tents, and she then went and bought the Access thinking, no, this is going to be the ideal tent, and it absolutely poured on the inside through no ventilation. There's hardly any ventilation in the tent at all. She had some massive problems with it. It broke, and it's no good for the UK climate. From everything that I see, it's okay if you're out in the snow and it's cold and it's dry cold snow, you know, okay, but not when it's damp and rainy and miserable and wet like most of our summers. So I just kept looking and looking and looking and watching video after video after video, and then the Rhodes Scotsman, I think that's his name. If I've got that wrong, I'll put the real name here. I watched his videos. He's a photographer, and he's got one of these, and he did a setup and a talk and bits and bobs about it, and I watched it, and he convinced me that this really was the tent I was looking for. And but he did miss a few things, like how many clicks, and that was important because the instructions for this are outrageously crap. It's just a picture of the tent laid out, pegged out, and then telling you how high to put it. That's it. I know it seems like, well, it's not rocket science anyhow, but really, you try figure out how high that pole goes to make everything work. If you've not putting anything in and you're just putting the pole in, it's not a problem. But when you're putting that half inner in, it has to be right for the half inner, and there is nowhere and nobody that shows you that, and nobody tells you how many clicks to put the pole. I had no idea. So there you go, 3 for the half inner, and you're laughing. You can drop it down one if you wish, if it gets a bit rainier or a bit windier, and if you do want to use your inner, you can drop it down a click and get a little bit closer to the ground. But that works for me. I like it. If I get out into the hula and it's too high, I can drop down one. It's just starting to rain, so I am literally going to crash this down and get it all out of here. Alright, I'm going to cut that short. I don't want to get it wet. Not my new tent. You know how much it cost? Jeepers. That's a little carabiner. It helps click it on. It's hard to find that when the pole's in, so that helps. With 3 pegs taken out and still the ground sheet in there, that is definitely now under 2 kilos. That is a hell of a tent for 2 kilos. And for any doubting Thomas, $1973. There we are. That's as you seen me pack it. If you've got any questions, please ask. I will try and answer them. I'm new to it. I'm learning myself. But at least if you've watched this video, you'll have a better understanding of how to put it up, because there is no instructions with it. Give me a thumbs up if you found that useful. If you didn't, go and watch someone else.